My baby was supposed to die. I knew something was wrong when I was 32 weeks pregnant, a feeling deep in my gut that I couldn't explain but couldn't ignore. My doctor smiled at me like I was a child and said, "First-time moms always worry. Your tests are fine. Try to relax." I went home, but the feeling didn't stop. The baby wasn't moving as much as before, and I started counting kicks obsessively, writing them down in a notebook like a crazy person. She was hitting the minimums, but barely, and something about the way she moved felt weak and wrong. I called the office and the nurse said, "Movement slows down as the baby gets bigger. Totally normal. Try not to worry so much." At my next appointment, I told my doctor the baby felt different, slower, like she was fading somehow. She did a quick Doppler, and we heard the heartbeat, and she said, "See? Perfectly healthy. You really need to stop Googling symptoms." I asked for an ultrasound, and she sighed like I was wasting her time. She said they'd just done one a few weeks ago, and insurance wouldn't cover another one unless it was medically necessary. I said, "What if something is wrong?" She said, "Nothing is wrong. You're a first-time mom and you're anxious. That's completely normal, but you can't let it control you like this." I started feeling exhausted all the time, dizzy when I stood up, seeing spots in my vision that came and went like little stars. I called the office and they said those were normal third trimester symptoms. I should rest more, drink more water, stop working so hard. My husband started looking at me with worried eyes, but he wasn't worried about the baby. He was worried about me. One night he said gently, "Maybe the doctor's right. Maybe you're just anxious. You haven't slept properly in weeks." I felt completely alone in the world. At 35 weeks, I told my doctor the spots were getting worse and my head hurt constantly. A dull pounding pressure that never went away no matter what I did. She took my blood pressure and said it was slightly elevated, but nothing to worry about. I asked about preeclampsia and she actually laughed a little. She said, "Your numbers don't indicate that at all. You really need to stop diagnosing yourself online. It's not healthy for you or the baby." At 36 weeks, I woke up and the baby barely moved all day. I drank cold orange juice and lay on my side for an hour and felt one tiny kick, so weak it was almost nothing. I called the office in tears and the nurse sounded annoyed with me. She said, "If you felt movement, the baby is fine. We can't bring you in every time you get nervous." I asked to speak to my doctor and she said the doctor was with patients but would call me back. She never called. That night, I had the worst headache of my life and the spots in my vision were constant, floating across everything I looked at. My husband asked if I wanted to call the doctor and I started sobbing. I said, "What's the point? They think I'm crazy. Maybe I am crazy. Maybe I'm just a hysterical first-time mom who can't handle being pregnant." He held me and told me it was going to be okay. Just a few more weeks and this would all be over. I went to bed feeling like I'd already failed my daughter somehow. I woke up at 3 a.m. and realized I hadn't felt her move in hours. I put my hands on my belly and pressed and waited and felt nothing at all. I shook my husband awake and said, "We're going to the hospital, right now." He asked if I wanted to call the doctor first, and I said, "No, I'm done asking permission to save my baby's life." The ER nurse hooked me up to monitors immediately, and the baby's heart rate was there but dropping. These terrifying dips that made the nurses start moving fast and calling for doctors. Someone took my blood pressure and said, 180 over 110. I didn't know what that meant, but I knew from her face that it was very bad. A doctor rushed in, a man I'd never seen before, and he looked at my chart and the monitors and said, "How long have you had these symptoms?" I said, 3 weeks. I told my doctor over and over. She said I was anxious. His face changed into something cold and furious, and he said, "We need to deliver this baby right now." They rushed me to the OR for an emergency C-section, and I was crying and asking if my baby was going to be okay. He squeezed my hand and said, "You got here in time. Another few hours and we'd be having a very different conversation." They put up the blue curtain and I felt pressure and pulling, and then I heard nothing. No cry. The NICU team was working on her, and those were the longest seconds of my entire life. Then she cried, this tiny angry wail, and I sobbed so hard I couldn't breathe. My daughter spent 2 weeks in the NICU, but she's home now. The doctor told me if I'd waited until morning, she would have died. The only reason she lived is because I wouldn't listen.